So what we learned in the previous lecture, we learned what is Python and how to install a package and how to import a package and what are the variables and what are the identifiers and what is type conversion and how to read input from keyboard, right? So we learned all these concepts. Now let's see the next one, that is control statements and loops, right? So that is the next topic. So what are control statements? If, elif, else, these are called conditional statements or control statements. Okay, so let me add a comment here. If, elif, else. Okay, these are called the conditional statements. So let's see one by one. If 3 greater than 2, print I am in if block, right? So this is how we have to define a if conditional statement by using the keyword if, and here you can provide the expression and we are trying to print this, right? Whenever this condition is true, then it will go inside and print this. If 3 is less than 2, then this will not print, right? Here 3 greater than 2, this condition is true. Whenever this condition is true, print this, right? So we are trying to print this depending on a condition, right? So that is why these are conditional statements. So let's run this code. So now you can see it printed I am in if block, right? Because this condition is true, right? And now let's see another example. If 3 greater than 2, here we are printing I am in if block, right? So now let's run this code. So now you can see indentation error. Expected an indented block after if statement on line number 1. So what does this mean? After this, you can see the indentation here. This is the indentation, right? So that means after this, it has to start the next line here. But here we are starting the next line here, right? So what you understood here, Python follows indentation, right? So after this, hit enter. So this is where the next line should start. But we started here. Instead of here, we started here. So that's why we got the indentation error. We should start here, but we started here, right? So that is the reason we saw the indentation error. This example is to explain that Python follows indentation, right? So make sure you follow indentation whenever you write the code. And now let's see elif, okay? What we are doing here, if 3 greater than 2, print I am in if block. Elif 3 greater than 1, print I am in elif block, right? So let's execute this code. So you can see it is printing I am in if block, right? Because this condition is true. 3 greater than 2, the condition is true, right? So it will come to this block and this will not execute the remaining code, right? Because this condition is true. So the execution will stop here and it will not be executed because this condition is already true. So this will be printed and the execution will stop and it will not come inside this elif block, right? So let's see another example. If 3 less than 2, print I am in if block. Elif 3 greater than 2, print I am in elif block. Elif 4 greater than 2, print I am in the second elif block. So all these are keywords, right? If, elif, elif, right? If this is true, do this. Otherwise, if this is true, do this. Otherwise, if this is true, then do this, right? 3 less than 2, this is false. So control will not come here. Elif 3 greater than 1, this condition is true. So that's why it will print I am in elif block. Since this condition is true, the control will not come inside this block, right? Because this condition is already true, so this will print this. So let's run this code. So now you can see I am in elif block, right? And this will not be executed because this condition is already true. So the execution will stop there and it will come out of this, right? And it will not execute this. Now let's see one other example. So what we are doing here, for the same code, we are adding else block as well, okay? If 3 less than 2, this condition is false, so it will not execute this. 3 less than 1, this condition is also false, and 4 less than 2, this condition is also false, right? So all these 3 conditions are false here. So if none of these conditions are true, then this will be executed. So let's try to run this. So now you can see this will be executed when none of the above conditions are true. So else will be executed when the prior conditions are all false, right? So we learn how to use these conditional statements if, elif and else, right, with examples. Now let's see loops. The first one is while loop. So this is the markdown. So while loop will iterate until the condition is false, right? For example, counter is equal to, we are giving the value as 4. If 4 greater than 2, print counter, and we are decrementing the counter. So initially the counter value is 4, so 4 minus 1, 3. So 3 greater than 2, again the condition is true, so it will print. And then again counter is equal to counter minus 1, so 3 minus 1, 2. So 2 greater than 2, right? So this condition is false. So the while loop will iterate until the condition is false. So whenever 2 greater than 2, that condition is false, it will stop executing, right? So we have to use the keyword while in order to define this while loop, right? So this is how we define a while loop. While, and this is the condition. This will execute until the condition is false. So let's run this code. So now you can see 4, 3. It printed the counter value as 4 and 3 because 4 greater than 2. So it printed 4. And then again the counter value became 3, 3 greater than 2, so it printed 3, and then again the counter value will become 3 minus 1, 2. So 2 greater than 2, the condition is false. So the while loop will stop executing, right? So that means until the condition is false, it will keep executing, right? So that is the intent of using while loop. So let me add the comment here, okay? So the while loop will iterate until the condition is false, right? And the next one is for loop. Okay, so for loop is used when we want to iterate or repeat multiple times. For example, we define the for loop by using the keyword for x in range of 1 to 6, print x, right? So that means this loop will iterate multiple times, range of 1 to 6. So let's try to run this code. So now you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So range of 1 to 6 means between 1 to 6, give me all the numbers, right? So that is the range function. For x in 1 to 5, print all the values. So range of 1 to 6 means give me all the numbers between 1 to 5. This 6 means this will be excluded. This is the end index, this will be excluded, so it will print until 5, 1 to 5. So we are using this for loop and we are trying to iterate this multiple times for each number, trying to print the corresponding number, right? So let me add that comment as well. Okay, so the for loop is used when we want to iterate this, right? This is the condition between 1 to 5. The end index 6 will be excluded, so it will print all the numbers between 1 to 5. When we want to repeat multiple times, we will use this. For example, when we go to machine learning models, during training, we will keep iterating to get the accurate value, right? So there are many cases where we will use this for loop. And here this range is a function and it takes 3 parameters. That is the start index, which is inclusive, and end index, this is exclusive, and there is a step size also you can define. Okay, so let's see one other example. This is the start index, end index, and this is the step size. That means between 1 to 5, this 6 will be excluded, right? So between 1 to 5, this is the step size is 2, right? So that means step 1 number forward, right? For example, let's run this code so you will understand. So 1, because we gave the step index as 2, so that's why it will not print 2, it will go to 3. And then again skip 4 and print 5, right? So that is the use of this step index, right? And now let's see one other program. You want to start at 11 and decrement until 2, right? So write a program to start x at 11 and decrement until 2, right? So how can we write this? For, this is the keyword, the value of x in range of, notice here, we want to start the value of x as 11, right? So that's why we gave the start index as 11 and decrement till 2, right? So that's why we gave the step index as -1. So this way the values will be printed in the reverse order, right? Because we are giving the negative index and this is the end index, right? So that means This will be exclusive. So now let's run code. So now you can see it started from 11 and then decrement by 1, right? So 10, 9, 8, 7 and so on, right? So this is the exclusive value. So that's why you are saying only until 2, right? That is here ending index is exclusive and starting index is inclusive, and this is the step value. This step value can be either positive or negative. Positive means it will go in the forward direction. Negative means it will go in the backward direction. Okay. Let me add the comment here for range function. Range is a function and takes 3 parameters: start index, right, that is inclusive, end index, which is exclusive, so that means it will give until the previous value, right, and step size. Default value is 1. If you do not give any value, the default value is 1, right? So that's why we saw 1 2 3 4 5, right? And if you give 2, it will go 2 steps forward, right? So plus means forward direction, minus means backward direction. Okay. And now the next topic is functions. So let's learn about functions. So what is a function? Let me put the comments here so you can refer them later. A function is a block of code which will do a particular job. So we don't repeat the code again and again, right? So that is the intent of using function. If you want to use the same block of code again and again, put that code inside a function so you can reuse the same code. So that way you don't duplicate the code, right? We use functions for code reusability. If you want to reuse the same code again and again, put that code inside a function and we will write the code once and call and reuse whenever we need it, right? So that is the intent of using function. Now let's see how to define a function and how to call a function, right? So we use the keyword called def. In order to define a function, we use def keyword, and here you have to give the function name. You can give any name here, but make sure you provide meaningful function name. And these are the function parameters. We are giving number 1 and number 2, and we are returning number 1 plus number 2. What will this function do? It will return the sum of these two numbers, number 1 and number 2. So this is how we defined a function. This is the def keyword, this is the function name, and these two are the function parameters, and this is the return keyword. By using this return, we are returning this value, number 1 plus number 2, right? And now this is the function definition. Now let's call this function, right? So in order to call, you have to use the function name, and this function accepts number 1 and number 2, right? So let's pass two values, 6 comma 6, right? So this is how you have to call. So let's execute this code. So now you can see 12, right? So that means we passed 6 comma 6. So this number 1 will be replaced with 6, number 2 will be replaced with 6. Return 6 plus 6, which is 12, right? So this is how you will define a function, and this is how you will call a function. Okay. And instead of this number 1 plus number 2, here you will place all the repetitive code, right? Let's say if you have a block of code that you will be using many times inside your project, so put that code here inside this function and call it multiple times. Okay, that way you can reuse the same code by using this function, right? And now we can also use docstring that will help others to understand the functionality of your function, right? For example, here we are using docstring. This is called docstring. We are saying this function is used to calculate the sum of two numbers, right? So whatever logic you are implementing here, you can provide a brief description here. So that way, when others are trying to read this function, they will understand what this function will do, right? So let me run this. Now let's see the help and see what this function will do, right? So you can see the docstring is this function is used to calculate the sum of two numbers, right? So you can see by using question mark or by using the help function, we can understand the method signature, right? So that the signature is this, what is the docstring, what is the brief description of this function, and this is where I'm saving, and what is it? It is a function, right? So you can see the docstring value here, right? Thank you.